Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar number 7, the Lucky 7. So today we have intersection of cancer immunotherapy and big data and AI technologies. So we have an amazing topic which is very unique, identifying cancer treatments through immunotherapy. This is and integration with AI and big data. So this is an amazing introduction for everyone to work around. I'm Miller Rajendran, and I'll be one of the moderator today, and alongside with my colleague Ruban Kanapathipillai. So we are thrilled to have you, all of you today to discuss such a transformating topic, and we'll be exploring how advanced technologies like big data and AI reshaping the future of cancer immunotherapy. So Ruban, over to you.
Thank you, Miller. We are honored to have Dr. Tony Arulanandam, a leading expert in cancer immunotherapy as well as autoimmune diseases like IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and asthma with us today. His groundbreaking work at the forefront of integrating AI with personalized cancer treatment. A quick reminder, the session will be about 60 minutes with 40 minutes of discussion and 20 minutes dedicated to your question. So feel free to drop your questions at the chat anytime, as well as at the end, we will open up the mic for you. Thanks, Tony, for joining us. So, Tony, you have had an amazing journey from where you started to how you got here. Could you share describing your journey to our audience and your background? How did you end up in this, cutting edge technology from our, where we all came from our background?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Miller and Ruben for giving me this opportunity to participate in your webinar. And so just way of introduction, I'm Tony Arulanandam. I'm a Sri Lankan, but now you live in Boston, USA. And I trained as a veterinarian in Sri Lanka, and then came here for greener pastures after the ethnic conflicts in Sri Lanka in 1983, and managed to get in through the help of a lot of people to get into a PhD program in immunology, and I trained in immunology, continue to get help from network friends, etc. Got into Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to train further in my postdoctoral fellowship in immunology affiliated with Harvard Medical School. I learned a lot from those experiences, and the work I was doing during my fellowship was very translatable to drug discovery. And so my professor at the Dana-Farber invited me to join his company. He started a company called Procept, and I jumped on it. Just wanted to make a little more money than I would if I was stay at Harvard or Dana-Farber or academia. So, and then I had the good fortune of working in different biotech companies and biopharma like Biogen, Alexion, Regeneron more recently, and had the opportunity of working on a lot of immunotherapy, IND discovery programs, getting them into the clinic and then beyond in getting approvals. Here right now I'm focused on developing cancer immunotherapies, some more recently, and autoimmune therapies as well. In cancer immunotherapy, recently had again a good fortune of reconnecting with Dana-Farber, my colleagues there and friends, Dr. Gordon Freeman, who had identified PD-L1, and then coming up with a new approach to come up with cancer immunotherapy treatments for patients who are not responding to the current cancer immunotherapies. And then through that work, we started a company called NextPoint Therapeutics. And I'm a co-founder with Gordon for NextPoint Therapeutics. And we have been able to take two candidates so far, two bispecific antibody, two monoclonal antibody candidates into the clinic for solid tumors, and another one that's coming in for a bispecific engager in the near future. And yes, we are trying to make drugs, immunotherapy work for the majority of patients who do not respond right now. As I said, I would say 20-25% of the patients are responding. So we need better treatments both cancer immunotherapy and combinations with other targeted agents as well.
So that is very, very interesting, Tony. Thanks for the setting up the stage for what you have gone through and what you are doing, why you are doing now. But for our audience, which has a lot of people from AI and ML who are trying to solve the problem, as well as coming from young generation coming from getting into this field, let's start with some basics. Can you describe what is cancer immunotherapy and has been in the life of some of the people, and how this has been revolutionizing this world? Can you go a little bit more into the cancer immunotherapy?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think it's a very important question, especially for the larger audience here. So, cancer immunotherapy was tried for many years, and it didn't work out. It's not like it just happened 10 years ago, where people had been trying cancer vaccines, etc. And the real breakthrough. Just to step back a little bit, what is cancer immunotherapy? It's the way. So your body's immune system has a way to fight infections, right? Viruses, bacteria, etc., etc. Similarly, your immune system can also attack your body's cancers, because it's considered, the cancer is considered somewhat foreign because it changes. So the body's your human system, physiologic system is built to be able to evade cancer, and there is a battle going on. How the body is resisting cancer through the immune system. The cancer is evading the immune system, right, and trying to survive by, mutating and evading the immune system. So the real breakthrough, in my opinion, that happened in terms of the cancer immunotherapy. There were many, many breakthroughs in terms of generalized cancer treatments over the years, but just focusing on cancer immunotherapy was the concept of this evasion was clearly elucidated, how the immune system. How the tumor is evading the immune system, and that was through a checkpoint pathway. That's immune pathway that's widely called as checkpoint. Which stalls the immune system, which stops the immune system. And those receptors and ligand interactions were identified by Gordon Freeman and others, and who eventually went on to get the Nobel Prize 3-4 years ago. And once you understood that break, we could target it, to unbreak it, to get the brakes off the immune system. And those were the first drugs. The Keytruda, Keytruda from Merck, Opdivo from Bristol Myers Squibb, really, made a huge impact. They able to activate the immune cells to attack the cancer, and then those responses, once the immune system gets primed against the cancer, that response lasts. If it's the right patient and the right cancer antigen is involved, that response can last for a long time. I would say close to curative when people are living with these treatments and they're disease-free. Good, Ruben, you asked me some examples. So obviously, I always think about our president in the United States, former President Carter. He had melanoma, and he was treated with one of these checkpoint immunotherapies. I believe it was Opdivo, which is a PD-1 antibody. And he was disease-free till he recently passed away of other normal things when you get old.
Yes, sometimes the age catches up with him. Yeah, he's only 100.
Yes, that's right. 100 is a great life. Yes.
Yeah. So, Miller.
Sure. Actually, Dr. Tony, that is very interesting, because creating drugs and treatment is one therapeutic application, but creating a sustainable mechanism within your body, that is something long term, and that is the best option also. Everyone prefer to have. So this is on the medical side. So being on the AI on the health tech side, so we working with cancer treatments, cancer monitoring, identification of image technology, computer vision based image technology through MRI scans and other image availability on cancer treatments. So can you give some idea about how AI or big data type of cutting edge technology working on immunotherapy, especially interacting at this moment, and where you see some application, how it's interacting at the moment?
So, talking about your imaging technology, obviously we measure progression of disease through, imaging, right? That's how it's monitored, and then we can clearly measure patient response and patient, progression through lack of response to disease. So the focus, I think, is obviously there are many ways to think about this. Cancer immunotherapy, works in only about 25% of the patients right now. There are also, cell to CAR T cells, but those are work in only certain types of cancers, like in hematologic, like leukemia, lymphoma, and so on. And those CAR T cells really work well, like 80% response, 70% response rates in those types of cancers. But if you look at the whole cancer spectrum, that's only about maybe 10% of all the cancers. Most of the other cancers are of these solid tumors, lung cancer, liver cancer, kidney cancer, bladder cancer, ovarian cancer. So those are the largest populations where we're struggling with in terms of coming up with treatments for these patients who do not respond to the checkpoint immunotherapy drugs I was talking about. So we have to, I think, look, there's many clinical trials that have been done with these agents, right? For example, so there are patient databases. So companies have, pharmaceutical companies, especially who do these studies, have collected, as part of their exploratory analysis, as part of their clinical development, are likely to have these samples, genomics, gene expression sample, protein expression samples. And then that wealth of knowledge is telling us this drug is not working now in these patients because there are these other genes that are, really dominant, activating another survival pathway or evasion pathway from the immune system. So we have those biopsies from these patient samples, as I just alluded to, and that can be deciphered using AI. Specific examples are like digital cytometry. This is something we are really interested in. We did some work on this. Just to put it in a broader perspective, it is a way of, just getting gene expression. So the gene expression data, for example, from these biopsies is known. And you can use this graph AI or digital cytometry to reconstruct that data into real three-dimensional data. And meaning, what I mean by that is you come to understand the interactions of the immune cells with the cancer, the stroma, the tumor microenvironment. Once you know what those interactions are, you're in a good spot, right? So now you know what are the dominant pathways that now immune cells, the cancer pathways that we can target. And then, so target identification and creating, tractable, more druggable pathways in these resistant patients can be better fast-tracked or better, more efficiently triaged through AI, in my opinion, and I'm sure it's an opinion of a lot of people. So I think that's how I think AI can be really. It can be more. I think it's more precise. It can be more precise than doing the analysis and doing the flow cytometry, immunohistochemistry. These are multiple analyses used typically that are done, and then piecing all that together can be cumbersome. But I think the digital cytometry or the cyber, I think it's called it's a technology that can do this. I think it's built on some algorithms that can simulate that immune cell interaction in these patients. So that's just one example of trying to apply AI. But there are other ways. So that's from the target identification. But then there are other ways in which once you know the target, you can do zero shot, right? Generative AI, like I think, Mila, you guys also have some experience with that.
Yeah.
Right. So you can, know the structure of the target. In some cases, you have some idea that, there's a previous drug that has worked. Now you want to make it better. You can just make antibody therapeutics or small molecules. You can just re-engineer them based on the zero-shot interaction and make them better in terms of their affinity, their interaction, and then also optimize the drug properties as you go along as well. And there are many companies that are doing it in all over the world. So it's really exciting. So just to recap, two areas in AI. One is the way leverage the enormous databases that are available, and gene expression data, TCGA, or it can be if not from pharmaceutical companies tend to be more proprietary, but conceptually that's possible within a company. But also, there are organizations like, patient foundations, cancer patient foundations, who want to promote, innovation. And those people, those foundations have worked with academic or hospitals, institutes to collaborate and form these databases, right? So that is a way to tap into those patient foundations as well to access these databases. They want to not only use those for treatment to come up with targets, but also to track pharmacodynamics or biomarkers or surrogate markers as you go through clinical development. That gives you the surrogate markers, gives you an idea if the patient is responding to the drug or not. So the meaning, is there a connection, right, between the drug pathway and response? So there are many ways to do this. Sorry.
I think this is amazing, because I think, I am in Silicon Valley. I do a lot of angel investment part of it. In this particular area, I see so much, possibilities and potential coming out. As you said, in one of the company I have invested is as preparing your gut to be able to accept this medicine and, improve the efficiency. You said 10 to 20% of efficacy. There can be higher percentage if your body can be in a perfect situation to get the treatment from that point. And the other side, as you mentioned, I am a lot into AI and seeing billions of dollars everybody is spending, but I feel like the low-hanging fruit is, as you said, all these pharmas have so much data they have harnessed, and 1 in 10 medicine get to the market because of a lot of issues. So there are so much data on those 9 failed, just like a startups, 1 in 10 companies succeed in 1 in 10 medicine. And if we can improve by another 1 or 2, the improvement and the whole cost associated with this one can be amazingly amortized and improved. And then, the personalized medicine side of it also. And I think, do you have any a work play in the practices which people are doing with AI and big data? I think you went into a lot of detail there already, but if you look at it from a generative AI point of view or the big data analytics point of view, how are these people? Do you have like a data scientist in the team who does help you with those kind of thing, or you guys are becoming expert on that too?
No, not our company. I mean, we are mostly, therapeutic. So we are mostly, I would say, biologists and drug developers, right? We had no idea of data sciences. We have not much, but a lot of appreciation in the last few years for AI. So the way we looked at this, and we at least my current company at Cytovia Therapeutics, was to partner with AI companies. So we partnered with a company called Lynx Analytics in this particular case, to essentially, they had this digital cytometry capability, flow cytometry capability using graph AI, and basically, we were interested in working on a drug for liver cancer, a bispecific antibody. We wanted to, justify and rationalize, the targets that we wanted to select for this program. So when we looked at this, there was a really good correlation through the work that they did. What immune cells are associated with survival. So essentially, like I said, this digital, if you had those access to those samples, that you can now make those correlations between what are the immune cells that are associated with survival, what are the and that are associated with poor prognosis, right? And then what are the targets within those immune cells that are associated with that? Because that, at the end of the day, we also need to understand how to drug it, so cell type, the target, and on the other side, Ruben, is the tumor, right? And what are those tumor antigens that are making the disease worse? So it tells you about the other side, because immunotherapy, is about just doing both, bringing the immune system to attack the target on cancer cells. So that information, we got pretty good information on that there was this pathway that was critical, that was evading checkpoint blockade. So there's, as I said, there is PD-1 checkpoint blockade works in liver cancer in maybe 20% of the patients, but then there is a resistance mechanism through beta-catenin signaling, and that was we came up with that target, that there was this pathway that we identified called GPC3, and downstream was this resistance pathway, beta-catenin, I just mentioned, and that pathway also excludes immune cells. So we knew this is druggable from an immunotherapy perspective, and we made the bispecific antibodies, and we've been able to get up to clinical candidate. And there's another company I think we have spun out that's going to do all the clinical development in liver cancer with this bispecific antibody. So just from experience. And we have also, going back to making the drug, your question about the drug. So there are companies like, we've talked to AbbVie. Is in the Bay Area, I think. It's a very, very, very good, they were very impressed with the generative AI capabilities they had. In that case, it was more around how do we drug it. So we thought about, drugs that are been used for different modalities, but we wanted to make those drugs better. So we have the genetic sequence, and then you can just do the zero shot on their database, on their drug database, and that refines it based on the lead that you have. To minimize the number of hits that you need to screen, as opposed to if you were to do this manually, I mean, not manually, empirically, in the laboratory, it will take year and a half to get to a candidate. Here, you can just get it within 3 to 6 months. I mean, I would say a 2-year traditional approach can be minimized to 6 months using the zero-shot generative AI approach. So that's.
Yeah, so I think that is excellent way of connecting the AI technology and what we need to improve the cost, improve the efficiency of all these medical. And the one thing to say is the globalization of the AI technology, because when I work with SenzMate team or the team from Sri Lanka as well as worldwide, now the AI is being democratized where everybody is able to have the access to the open AI research by Meta, by Google, by many of these people. Because of that, I get excited with working with these young people because they know all the latest paper published. If they can be in far away in China or Sri Lanka or India or in US, they are able to do this same kind of research and development of it. And I could see, I mean, in the Bay Area, there are so many of these companies coming up, but the development has been wider. And so that is very interesting. So Miller, you can go.
Yeah, I mean, this is excellent. Like the example you gave from 2 years to a countable number of hours, and that's an unbelievable transition. So that's the power of AI. So there are 1,000 benefits, like from simulation, it saves plenty of human trials and opportunities where you can save lives, even the animal trials and human trials by simulating to AI. There are 1,000 benefits and outcomes, but when it comes to medical and especially therapeutic application, the biggest concern, you also mentioned about there are data coming from academic and institutes and research institute where you can collect. So what about the regulations and the ethics and ethical issues, what it's occur? So basically, that's the major bottleneck what we have as a tech company, data tech company. So where you see such what kind of challenges you see as in this particular sector where you find as a bottleneck on cancer immunotherapy?
That's a great question. Here's the problem, right? Pharma companies have these data, but they don't use it in a non-competitive space, right? It's just proprietary. But that doesn't mean to say that I'm sure the pharmaceutical companies can take advantage of those. I mean, that's the reason that they have collected these samples to do the work. I'm not sure if it's the pharmaceutical companies. I don't mean to speak, but badly of any pharmaceutical company. But the focus is more on the development. The development of the drug all the way through clinical trials. There probably this deconvolution of all these genomic data is probably. They probably work with smaller companies. They collaborate with smaller companies to be able to use that technologies. So, having said that, coming back to your original point, Miller, yes, patient consent is right, front and center. So most of these samples have been collected with patient consent, right? Those are part of the clinical trial. In the protocol, if it's going to be used for exploratory analysis, that has to be spelled out, right up front, right? And then how, so if clinical trials are done in academic centers, nonprofit foundations, cancer patient foundations, these foundations have their interest is obviously not commercializing anything, although, anything you can help a patient with, you can come up with a treatment that's, obviously comes with the territory, right? But their main focus is it's a nonprofit organization. They want to have databases and longitudinal studies on how patients, patient databases, like how patients, evolve or progress with diseases. So if you can partner with those kinds of, foundations, that's one approach to a sort of AI company. They would probably want to partner with the AI company too, because there's a lot of data that's sitting out there. I think it just probably needs to go to that next level we are all seeking. Maybe it's through this AI, right? And we believe it has to be this with the progress happening. So a case example for this is when I was at Regeneron, our chief scientific officer, brilliant George Yankopoulos, is really brilliant, and he decided that we need to collaborate with a healthcare institute. It was called Geislinger in Pennsylvania, and we had access to that patient database through a partnership with them, and then obviously Regeneron was very innovative. They also started their initiative on gene profiling, and I'm sure they had AI built into all that. So because of this partnership and access to these patient samples, who are patients who are not responding to treatment, who have or responding to treatments, that information is was started at Regeneron, which I thought was very visionary and very attractive, and that's probably one of the reasons that the company is doing really well with many drugs approved, 11 drugs the last I looked at approved, and then rich pathway of drugs driven by, I would say, by real rigorous strong genomic science, genomic medicine science. And I won't be surprised. I'm not at Regeneron, but I won't be surprised. I don't know what exactly they're doing, but I'm sure this whole Geislinger initiative collaboration and the genomics group they have within the company focused on this is really probably most likely applying a lot of AI.
So thanks, Tony, on that, because I think we will go to the last question before taking the Q&A. So people, audience, if you have any questions, get ready, as well as put it in the questionnaire thing. So this is the $1 million or $1 billion question. How do you see as the next generation or the next decade of immunotherapy and all the other therapeutic area you're working on, and AI heading into together? I think you gave some of them glimpse what we are doing now. Over next 10 years, what do you see could be improved or could happen from your, looking at the future?
Yeah, that's a loaded $1 billion question. I'm humbled to try to answer this. So as I alluded to, there are many ways you can harness the immune system, right? One I talked about was the checkpoint blockade, and I'll come back to that, how it's transforming more recently. The other modalities I talked about was CAR T cells, where you harness the patient's immune system that's dysfunctional. You take it out, you engineer it, put the bullet into the immune cells, right? You've taken out. They're called, if there's T cells, they're called CAR T cells, and then you put them back, right? As I said, it works in hematologic cancers, blood cancers, but it doesn't work in solid tumors. So I think there's going to be progress. We're kind of peripherally involved in that, working with some leading clinicians on that to make those immune cells, CAR T cells, work in solid tumors. And so there's progress around that, but not enough. And also the other part, I should say, with these types of CAR T cells and immune cell therapies, we got to make it more. We need to bring the prices down, because the current approaches are, it's taking the cell, engineering all that, and then doing all the manufacturing. It can be a cumbersome but also costly, and can also reduce the time between making the drug and infusing it to the patient. So that has to be more. You want it to be like an injection. We just want it to be right. Okay, you have the drug. You can just inject it like an antibody, right? So we call them off-the-shelf therapies. So I would think that would really accelerate in the next few years. And the third bucket I can think of is the vaccines, cancer vaccines. When I say cancer vaccines, right, these are not prophylactic vaccines like the COVID vaccine, right, which is to prevent getting sick from COVID, right, for example. But there's another class of vaccines, especially in cancer, called the therapeutic vaccine. So the patient already has cancer. Now you want to really boost up your immune system by taking those cancer antigens and making those vaccines. The problem, right, we have some response with like HPV-driven cancers. We have some vaccines that work really well because the antigens, it's a viral antigen that transforms the cancer. We can, have a vaccine to target that, and
all my kids in teens, they got the HPV vaccine, because of that. That is a prevention thing nowadays. So
Gardasil. It's just Gardasil. I mean, that's the original name, but I'm sure there are multiple other names. Yeah, that's a great example, Ruben. Right, but then what about these other non-viral, oncogenes and oncoantigens? And the other challenge we having right now is the response. The cancer immunotherapy response is so personalized. My genetic makeup, yours, others, their genetic makeups are all different. And depending on your genetic makeup, the way the body presents that type of antigen, because that antigen is linked to the way your genetic makeup, because there are these genetic components that are presenting it to the immune cells. So the way you present it to somebody versus another person presented to somebody would be different. But I think that we have to figure out ways to identify these antigens that are more shared across multiple genetic backgrounds, right? Easier said than done, but this is
so right. We have few questions. I'm sorry to cut off because I think I want to make sure I respect the time of the audience. So Miller, can you open up, or do I open up the queue?
I think, Dr. Tony, this is an interesting discussion to take it for the entire day. But we have very interesting questions from our audience as well. Mr. Nimal was there for a very long time, and follow up we have Dr. Rizwan Qureshi also waiting. So Mr. Nimal, I'm giving permission right now, so hope you can switch on your mic and have a discussion. Thank you.
There's so many things you need to do to get onto this thing. The technology has to improve. I do have a question for you, Miller. Do you, in Sri Lanka right now, do you have access to Starlink?
No, not yet. Not yet. Okay, there was a discussion with the previous president, but it's still in discussion. And no.
Okay, I was just curious. Just going back to Dr. Arulanandam. Anyway, I'm a cancer survivor, sir. So I know something about cancer. I'm from Jaffna as well. I know Ruben. So I'm here for some time. I come from a very investor perspective. So this is something I've talked to Miller and Ruben all the time. So I'm trying to see how this is all going to work. I believe generative AI, as we know today, is an infrastructure business. So that means you need the domain expertise which you bring in, then the data and the compute bandwidth. You talked about data a lot, but my question is that these private companies have immense amount of data, which Ruben also mentioned. How are they going to work with you, a startup, to share the data in a way commercially, not necessarily going to foundation all the time. Commercially, you go to a larger company and say, can you be the domain expertise company working with their data to come up with a solution? If you can explain that to me that's the most important thing. And the second part of the question is that two big entities in the last 2 days have said the same thing. They want drug discovery, DeepMind as well as Stargate. And they are talking about deploying tens of billions of dollars. It's just freakingly high number. How does a
Actually,
small
hundreds
company-
of billion dollars actually
Okay,
lately.
hundreds of billions of dollars. So I'm looking at a smaller company and say, how does his lay of the land from a business model perspective going to work? If you can answer that, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Miller. Thanks, Ruben.
Thank you, Nimal. It's a pleasure to have you.
All right, lovely. First of all, Nimal, really meet you. Nice to meet you virtually, and congratulations on being, fighting this, awful situation. Right? I'm so glad for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Most welcome.
It was a stage 3 carcinoma, so it was pretty bad.
Yeah, but the main thing is you've beaten it. I mean, you're surviving it.
Yes, you're right.
But cancer immunotherapy, and because you have to. You never know, right? You never know with this. You need to come up with these better treatments. So when this happens, patients have access to that. So
I'll put any amount of money if you can find an MRI machine which will do the job in 2 minutes. I have to go into the machine every time for 2 hours. 2 hours, and I have done it for 25 times, and no one should go through that kind of torture in their life. If you can do anything, I'll raise you billions of dollars, like an MRI, like an X-ray shot. An MRI image, like an X-ray shot, coming with all the information.
But I think this is where I think the big data and some of those associated the imaging technology we are actually working on, SenzMate, as well as there is a Canadian company on for the eye and different area. So Nimal, we are working on it.
Ruben, just to let you know from my own experience, MRI leaves cancer patient with post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Ooh.
I mean, when you go through that and come back, you don't want to do it again. And whenever you think about it, it makes you ill because you just can't be in a place like that for 2 hours. In my case, I have to go through every time for 2 hours. Usually it's 40 minutes, my minus 2 hours. So anyway, come back to your question I asked you.
Yeah, the question, I don't know if... go ahead.
No. How is this data and
Yes.
how are you going to compete with these large, humongous companies talking about hundreds of billions of dollars deployment?
Yeah,
Not
so
just any small company.
Right. So I'm in the small biotech, right? So we always constantly think about this. How we partner? How do we partner with AI companies? Right. So the AI companies have a lot of computing experiences, and they have ideas how to translate them into help drug discovery and development, and can be also diagnostics, but I'm focused on drugs discovering and developing. So I think both sides need to work together in terms of talk to each other and get on the same page. So for example, I like to just talk about specifics. So we want to start a project. We know that this is an important drug pathway. So therefore, we look at ways how we can improve that drug to make it better. So a good example right now, worldwide right now, is this checkpoint immunotherapy has been enhanced leaps and bounds by combining it with another drug called VEGF as a bispecific antibody, and the patient's response rates are really pretty doubled and tripled to what we saw in lung cancer. This is advanced refractory, chemotherapy refractory patients now are able to respond, and that came out of. It didn't come out of AI. It just was synthetically. People thought about these two drugs worked well as single agents, but not great. But hey, how can we combine them in a specific format in the tumor, to attack the tumor microenvironment through the immune cells, right? And when they did that, they found that. But if you can now harness AI to look at, like what I said, these interactions between immune cells and the cancer, you can construct those molecules. You can make them. We are very confident we can do that because of the clinical data. So is helping patients respond. The ways to do that, for example, or from a besides the target, like I talked about, what is the target you want to target? Next, you need to have the ammunition, right? The bullet, the drug. So for the drug, we work with, for example, this is another, for example, besides AbbVie, there are companies like Mabsilico. So I work on antibody therapeutics. These are, your own body's immune proteins, antibodies, like they kill tumors, but you need to have the right antibody. So we simulate that, and Mabsilico has a database of hundreds of drugs, hundreds approved drugs, databases. So you take the one that is working somewhat, and make a better antibody do by zero shot, Mabsilico, let me say that. And then you make the other drug, the one that also is working modestly, but that when you combine them, it's going to be really work well. And then we get that, come up with some few sequences, because that's the beauty of AI, just not only to do it in silico, but you can also now get the drug very quickly, like we talked about, within 3 to 6 months. And then you saved a lot of time and money in doing all the lab work. And then, so therefore now you can harness that in collaboration with the AI companies. And AI companies have a vested interest. They get partnering rights, royalties, milestones, at each stage of the drug discovery and development process.
Yeah. So I think one thing to add to that, Nimal, I know you're asking about one of those, as well as how do you get access to this big amount of data?
No, Ruban, essentially, Dr. Arulanandam is basically saying the business model is evolving for these kind of companies where partnership becomes something extremely important from day one. Yes. You and I know when those companies were started, they never talked to anyone for the first 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
you from day one, you have a partnership, and you have to have the kind of people. You have to hire the kind of people who can forge that partnership. Okay, Ruban. Yes. So I understand that this is something which I've been wondering, because you need so many things, and a small company doesn't have that.
No,
but if you find the right partner.
Yeah, one of the area I am thinking is with Oracle focusing on healthcare a lot, and Oracle a cloud infrastructure with them moving to Nashville and their headquarters, and they want to make on the medtech healthcare. I'm hoping they are being enterprise. They may have access to a lot of these data. They may go and license from big pharma and give it to people who are like, Tony and different people to see how they can work together. Okay,
we should find the right people in these large companies who are dedicated to finding this small company like Dr. Arulanandam's company, and find a fair partnership to everyone involved, basically. That's the business model going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a three-way, like what you said, Nima. Pharma, there has to be a buyer, right? At the end of the day, pharma is the buyer who has to be interested. Obviously, they're interested in new drugs, but they need to get partner very early with biotech companies and AI companies, right? To make it happen early. So they do that through their ventures. They have big pharma have, ventures like Merck Ventures, Sanofi Ventures. They invest a lot in companies like us, like, in biotech. The other component is the AI companies, right? So we need to be talking the same language, right? We need to be understand each other. The biologists need to understand and appreciate AI, and vice versa. And pharmaceutical companies would love that. I have no doubt about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Tony. I mean, this is really an eye-opener. So the experience you have in this industry was amazing. So our audience, I hope they all enjoyed, and we already come to a conclusion time period. But the window is not closed. Any question you have for Dr. Tony, we have a feedback form in the chat. You can ask their questions, and we will definitely reach you out with answers through email. And so thank you so much everyone for joining today. And as usual, as a contribution from our side, we have opened up our free consultation in terms of AI integration for your medtech initiatives. So we are more than happy to support you and explore what you have and what your data is, and give our consultants and our architects to support you with how AI can optimize your current growth in the health tech industry. So once again, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for supporting us for the 7th season. And we are expecting you all in our 8th season as well. So the recordings and the perks will be shared through email for every participant we have registered today. So thank you so much, Dr. Tony, and everyone participated today.